Hey, if you could double your personal income, do it in about 3 or 4 years and do it with half as many accounts, would you want to? Because when you think about it, if you double your personal income, that means you're making twice as much money. And that gives you a lot of financial freedom. We're going to get into what that would mean to you here in just a moment. But there's a lot of people that somehow get to a ceiling and start bumping up against it and get stuck. And I'm going to show you how to blow through that ceiling using this formula right here. So here it is. Double your book of business, do it in about 3 years, and do it with half as many accounts rather than twice as many accounts. Why? Because twice as many accounts means even more work. And most of you are already, like I was talking to a guy the other day, he had $1 million book of business. He's making great money. He's got the capability going to $2 million because he's got the talent. I mean, a brilliant kid, but he's stuck. He's stuck because he's got 240 accounts he's trying to manage, some personal lines, some small business. He's in a town with 200,000 people, so he knows everybody, and he becomes this crap magnet. So this is for people like him, maybe it's for people like you who are bumping up against the ceiling, but you feel like you got so much more capability if only you could just make up the capacity to go do it. So let's get in on this though. So how do you double your book of business in 3 years with half as many accounts? Well, number one, position your book of business for both profitability and growth by really taking the top 20% of your accounts that in most cases make about 80% of your money and overserve them. In fact, we got it right there. Overserve the top 20% of your accounts. Once you've overserved them by putting them on a service timeline and doing the appropriate thing, then you've earned the right to go leverage those relationships for introductions into who they know. Well, what we know, and what you probably know too, is that if we just started right there and we put your name, there's you, and we just drawing out all the people, your top 20 accounts, and then start writing out who do they know that you want to meet, and you build out that map, you could probably map out a book of perfect targeted prospects that would equal your book of business today. And chances are you could do it in about 3 or 4 hours, and it would create this amazing liberation. So you start off by overserving your top accounts, then that earns the right to go leverage them for introductions into who they know, and then you go grow by wedging out the incumbent, taking the money, and then you just start to keep track of the scoreboard because you want your closing ratio to go up. You want your average size account to go up. You want your growth year over year to go up. And that's really what we call the 2 and 3 over 2 or the $1 million producer concept. Now, why do most people struggle with that? Well, let's pull this dude up. Oh, I got to find it. Here we go. So why do so many people struggle with this? Well, this is a survey I did with, as you can see right here. So I'm going to try to point it out as I go through it. I did it with 168 producers that had $92 million of revenue. It averaged, or it was a total of 17,000 commercial accounts. So it was a large agency with a number of different offices, and we had them all together and we went through this. Now, I'm not going to take you through all that. I'm just going to try to get you right down here to the summary of it because it's important for you to know, or hopefully it's important you know, I did an analysis of the top 20% and an analysis of the bottom 40%. And here's my summary right here. And hopefully you'll find this very meaningful to you. So the average book of business amongst all 168 producers, the average book of business was $546,000. Had 106 accounts on average. The average account size was $5,159. Well, when you take the value of the top 20% of their accounts, well, 20% of 106 is 22 accounts. You can see right there. Brings in just under $400,000, $399,000. Average account size, $17,774. All right, so that's pretty interesting news. If you come down here and you look at the bottom 40% of their accounts, that's 43. So 40% of 106 is 43. Brings in $22,000 in total. And the average account size, which you have a hard time seeing right there in red, is $518. Now, what's interesting, if we go on with our analysis, it says right here, a producer could write 1.25% of their top 20. In other words, if they just wrote one more, $17,000 accounts, they could eliminate the whole bottom 40%. Say goodbye to 43 accounts. I write 1.25 accounts, and I say goodbye to 43 accounts. Now, the question is, if you did that, what would that do to free up time and free up capacity? And that's what we're talking about. So many people are bumping up against the glass ceiling. I just can't go do anymore, right? Now look at this. On the flip side, a producer would have to write 34 of the bottom, 34 of the $518 accounts to equal just one of the top 20. So you get to pick how you're going to go do your life. Now, as we get into this and go a little bit deeper, to take this $546,000 book of business and double it to go to 1 million, in other words, that's a 2 multiplier, 2x, doubled it. If you take the 399,000 from that, you got to make up 694. That's the balance, and you get rid of all the small stuff, even the middle stuff. At an average account size of 17,000, you'd have to write 39 new accounts. You add that to the 22 you got, you'd have a total of 61. So we just went from 106 accounts down to 61, and we made 2 times as much money. That's what's out there for you, with a little bit of strategy and a little bit of figuring out how to go make that thing happen. But then you got to back up and go, well, why would I want to? And that's what I want to get into right now. So here I am getting into Bignition. Click. I'm going to go over to my goals, my account, my goals. And we're going to take a look at this producer who in most situations would be considered a stud producer. Why? Because this dude has, let's get it over here. This example producer already has $1 million book, $1,183,000. And so I want to come back and I want you to start thinking about this thing we call fund life. So the question I'm posing to you, why would you want to double your personal income? Well, my personal story is very simple. I'm the father of 4 daughters. A number of years ago when they were 6, 4, 2 and newborn, I came to the realization I did not have a plan for how much money I needed to make or save and for what long period of time to be able to fund 4 cars, 4 universities, 4 weddings, and a retirement for Lori and I. So I sit down with a financial advisor, and with that financial advisor, we put down, here they were at that point, 6, 4, 2 and newborn. So that 10 years from now, I need to buy a car. 12 years from now, I need to buy a car. 14 years from now, I got to buy a car. 16 years from now, we got to buy a car. At 10 years old, when they turn 18, I got to pay for college, right? So 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 14 years out, and then wedding, and then retirement, add it all up. And what he told me at that point is that I needed to save $65,000 a year to be able to fund all that stuff. And I'm talking about every year for 20 years. And at that point, all I could save was somewhere in the range of $7,500 a year. So I was underfunding my future, some crazy number in the range of $57,500. That's how much I was under earning or under saving. And so I've worked with a lot of producers, asked a lot of producers, same question, what's your new business commission goal? How'd you come up with it? Why that? Did the agency owner assign it to you? Did you come up with it yourself? And it just became very clear to me, a lot of producers, not all, but a lot of producers say, just haven't put that much thought into it. And I don't know if you're like me, but, growing up, we were lower middle class. And my dad always said to me, hey, son, don't be intimidated by those rich guys. You put your pants on one leg at a time, just like they do. And I got a feeling that the rich guys' dads were telling their kids, hey, look, man, whatever you do, don't talk about money because, we don't want you to seem arrogant, overconfident, any of that sort of stuff. And by the way, if everybody knew how much money we had, everybody would want to steal it. My dad said, don't talk about money, don't be intimidated. Their dad said, don't talk about money because they're going to want to steal it. So nobody talks about money. Well, I presented all this to one of my clients, the agency owner. Like, let's go do this with your producers. Let's get them really clear on this stuff. And he goes, well, look, it's personal. And I don't get personal with my producers. Focus on agency goals, let the producers take care of themselves. I said, yes, of course it's personal. Root word of personal is person. All these producers you got working for your people, they're persons. Like, what would happen if we got them massively clear on this stuff? And when you think about it, this thing up here, this brain, is just like a computer. A computer runs on software. Your brain works on plans. The better the plan, the better the goal setting, the more clarity, the better it's going to do, just like a computer. If your software is buggy, you're going to get buggy results there. If your brain, if you don't have clear goals, then you're going to get buggy results with your brain. So with all that said, is why I created this for producers. Is you can come in and put in your family members. You come in and put in the major life events, car, college, wedding, college, retirement, car. If you get nothing out of this, just know that for your retirement, you need about 22 times whatever you expect to retire on. So if you expect to retire on, I'm going to say $200,000 a year, then you're going to need $4.4 million. And you're saying, well, why would anybody need $200,000 to retire on? Because the kids go on, all that sort of stuff. Well, when you put inflation, put everything else to it, the chances are that's not going to be an absurd amount of money. But you get to pick. It's your choice, not mine. So what happens here is that when producers put in, there's my car, there's the college car, college, date, money. Here's how much you have in the bank. If you're contributing to it, here's what you think you'll return in the stock market. It will tell you the future value of it. It'll tell you the balance needed, and then it'll break that down into a monthly contribution. That monthly contribution comes all the way down here about what you need to save on an annual basis. And then it subtracts what you're already saving and tells you what the bogey is. This person right here is doing really good. This person's already saving $76,000 a year. But I've talked to thousands of producers, and I would say that 95% of them are saving way less than even 30 grand a year. Many of them are grossly underfunding the future by as much 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 grand. And it becomes even more apparent. So why do I bring this up? Not to make you feel good or bad, either one, but to both encourage you and your sales leader to get together, because my belief is this, and I've seen it in action on numerous occasions, even with young producers. And I'm talking about 24-year-old kids, young men in this context, that don't have a girlfriend, not married, no kids. But a lot of times I ask them, well, do you think someday you'll get married? Oh, yeah, probably so. Well, do you think you'll have kids when you get married? Yeah, of course. Well, would you be more attractive to a future spouse if you had this all mapped out than if you don't? Yeah. And also, knowing if that's the case, why wouldn't you start planning for it now? All right, it makes a lot of sense. So I got people putting in that they're going to start having kids for maybe another 7, 8, 9, 10 years. They're already funding for it, thinking out loud, up front of people, owning what it's going to be like. And I promise you, every one of those guys, they're going to retire multi-millionaires because they're thinking this way. But there's a lot of people that nobody challenges them. And so they're stuck over here writing any account that will breathe. They're writing, little accounts like you see here, the average of $518,000, average of $3,000, when they've got the capability of doing this. And so to me, a great sales leader would sit down with a producer on a periodic basis, really getting them to think about long-term. Stephen Covey, the great Stephen Covey, from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, habit number 2 was keep the end in mind. Well, the end for all of us, someday this career is going to end. And when it does, you want, more than likely, financial freedom. If you sit there and go, even if that's 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, or even farther out into the future, define what that is and reverse engineer it all the way back to now and start building that. So now you're working on purpose to support your goal, your vision, as well as your family, getting ahead of the curve rather than being behind the financial curve. So many owners think they should assign a producer a goal like $75,000 or $100,000 or $125,000 because that's how the agency leader can continue to ensure some growth and then also fund and feed the carriers. I personally think it's a huge mistake. I think you ought to work with the producer first and start to work inside out and expand their thinking. Now, one of the criticisms or critiques I've gotten is, well, hey, Randy, I got producers that don't care about making money. Well, the way you can find out if people care about making money is take money away from them. And all of a sudden it starts to become important. It's just really strange. Okay, fine. If you don't care about money, I'm just going to go ahead and reduce your commission rate by half. And then all of a sudden they get kind of excited. So that just helps that producer know that they really do care about making money. And this sounds a little stupid, but they really do care about making money. So then I would do something like, hey, someday the chances are you're going to get old. And if you're fortunate enough to live, it's probably going to happen that you're going to end up in some old folks home. And there's 2 types of old folks home. There's the time that's really clean and really fresh and smells great, and the one that smells like urine. And I promise you, I would put them in that car and I'd go to an old folks home that smells like urine. It's not very well taken care of. It stinks when you go in there. And let them start to have that visceral reaction to what life really is. I take them down to a new BMW dealership and let's go test drive this car and then let's go drive your car. And just get them to feel it so you can expand their deal. One of the biggest reasons that producers say they don't want to talk about goals, don't want to talk about money, is because they don't believe they can. They don't believe they can do it. So the reason that I have this thing, that this really becomes a playbook from making money. Here it goes. Manage your existing accounts, work your existing accounts then for red hot introduction so you get into them. Go pre-call strategies. Let's go plan to beat the bad guy. Hop in your plane, go running down the runway and lift off. Go drive a wedge between your prospect and the incumbent. Either go for the BOR on the spot, or you got to go market the account for some period of time. You come in and you present it, and you want to make sure you win it, wedge-proof it, and then go get your partner in. And each one of these steps has a very well-defined dialogue and strategy and methodology to be able to go make it happen. When a producer doesn't have a sales call process other than let me copy, quote, and pray and don't you love me, then they really get stuck with the ability to go grow their book of business. And so then they hide from what their real desires are, which is to have better things in life. So to wrap this thing up, there's a lot of money to be made in this industry. There's a lot of, by definition, it has to be that way, mediocre competition. People who are vulnerable to people who are really sharp. If you'll sit there and start working with your goals with your producers, or you work on your own goals, getting really clear about what you want, why you want it, what you have to do to go get it, and build that action plan, and know how much money you need to save year after year after year to get there, and then build your book of business on purpose to go put you in a position to save that kind of money, then you're going to have an amazing future. And if you don't, you probably have a decent future. I mean, you think about it. Everybody gets by until you die. Look at the people in San Francisco. You go walk the streets. They're getting by. It's not very nice, but they do get by. And we all have our standards. Raise your standards is my message. Go figure out how to go make it happen. Get in concert with your sales leader and say, let's go figure out how to help me grow fast and get on the same page with me. So that's my message. Hey, look, Randy Schwantz, Bignition, bignition.io. It's the only platform on the planet built for middle market commercial insurance agencies that really want to bring a powerful sales team to the planet, help them go grow, go build a big, fast, And I'll show you some testimonials. You'll just be blown away by what some of my clients are doing when they get on this thing to go make cool things happen for themselves and their producers. Thanks.